Now, we are presently in the midst of Sfirat Omer, in the thick of things. We counted last night 21 days. Now, there has been recently a great revelation in the Torah world because they found a sefer of the Ben Ish Chai that was never found before. They ransomed it for a couple hundreds of thousands of dollars. Somebody totally did not appreciate what he had, and it was a book they found out called the Mekab Tziel. It's called Mekab Tziel. In the book Ben Ish Chai, he quotes, like I wrote in my sefer Mekab Tziel, he quotes that many times. And in that book, Mekab Tziel, the Ben Ish Chai writes that you should know the days of Sfirat Omer, every single day corresponds to another midah. Every single week, he says, corresponds to another attribute. And he says, look at the work of Rav Chaim Vital, the student of the Arizal, and he will teach you what these midot are. So let's open up the book of Rav Chaim Vital in Shara Kavanot, in Inyan Sfirat Omer Drush Yud Bet. He explains every single week what's its corresponding to.
A weekly midah or
every week, and we're going to see that there's in the days every single day within the week as well. And he says like this. He says like this. There are 10 sfirot, as it's known. For lack of better terms, we'll explain that sfirot means spheres. There are 10 spheres. Now, the first 3 spheres are Keter, Bina, and Da'at. He says that we're not even counting. What we're counting is from the sfirot of the 7 sfirot and down. Chesed, Gvura, Tiferet, Netzach, Hod, Yesod, and Malchut. Translation. The first week of Sfirat Omer is in correlation to the midah, to the attribute of Chesed. Now each one of these attributes are different midot of Hashem on a macro level, but on a micro level, it's attributes that facilitate us to connect to Hashem, because each one has different attributes, and you could serve Hashem in each one of these attributes. And sometimes it's a combination of these attributes how you could serve Hashem. And each one of these attributes, one is able to access them and tap into them during Sfirat Omer, and we're going to see why it's so important to tap into these midot specifically during this time of Sfirat Omer. We're going to see what's the connection between midot and Sfirat Omer. So he says the first week is Hesed, the second week is Gvura, strength, the third week is Tiferet. Tiferet is a mixture between Chesed and Gvura. The fourth is Netzach, endurance. Netzach. The fifth is Hod, which is literally light and radiance. The sixth is Yesod, which is the root of Kedusha, which is also really, it means abstaining from all lust and non-permitted relationships. And number 7 is Malchut, which is on a general level, it encompasses all the midot. This, I'm sure you know, these 7 midot are directly correlated to 7 of our pillars of the Jewish people. Chesed is Avram, Gvura is Yitzchak, Tiferet is Yaakov, Netzach is Moshe Rabbeinu, Hod, radiance, Aaron HaKohen, with all the begadim, Hod, Yesod, who knew how to keep the brit and his purity is Yosef HaTzadik. That's why it's called the Tzadik, because he didn't fall prey to the wife of Potiphar. And Malchut is David HaMelech. David HaMelech is all-encompassing. It encompasses everything. So each one of those midot is directly correlated to one of these forefathers. That's what the Rav Chaim Vital teaches us, and he says that each one of those weeks rectifies those midot. נמצא כי בכל שבוע מאלו הזין השבוע נתקנת ספירת האחד בזין ספירות הנזכר להיות כי כל אחד מאלו הזין הוא כלילה מכולם. And in every single week, you have the 7 midot. So in the first week of Chesed, you also had the other 7 midot. How? The first day was Chesed and Chesed. The second day was Gvura and Chesed. The third day was Tiferet and Chesed. And if you open up any Sidur, you'll see it written in the Sidur. I think we did this last year even. I think we did. This point we did last year, but I'm going to expand on it in a different light. He says that I remember showing it in the Sidur. Look, in every single Chesed of Chesed, Gvura of Chesed, Tiferet of Chesed, and so every day is a combination, because you have to understand that every single day can have its specialty. In other words, for example, yesterday was Malchut of Tiferet. It's all-encompassing Tiferet, which is the perfect balance between Chesed and Gvura. But and the day before yesterday was Yesod and Tiferet, was Kedusha, and in other words the balance of Chesed and Gvura. In other words, maybe the purification. In other words, the Yesod, which is making sure you're pure and holy, has to come with a balance of being strong and also Chesed, maybe not hurting somebody else. I mean, there's all types of combinations. Remember, I used to send an email about this. I don't know if you get these emails. I used to send an email every day about what our avodah for the week is. If when I had more time, I used to be able to do that. Al kol panim, this is what Sfirat Omer. Sfirat Omer, as we see, has much emphasis on midot. This is why during the times of Sfirat Omer we also read Pirkei Avot, right? Because it's about ethics, working on our midot. Now, later on in history, that means much after Hashem commanded Sfirat Omer, there was an episode where Rabbi Akiva lost his 24,000 students, Talmidei Rabbi Akiva. Until today, we mourn those students, and as a result, we don't get haircuts and we don't get married during that time. Certain things we don't do. Now, this is wondrous. Where do we find that we're supposed to we're supposed to do acts of avelut after a 12-month period? The maximum nobody should ever know, lo alenu, is 12 months. After 12 months, one doesn't sit avelut. So why over here by the students of Rabbi Akiva, after 12 months, one sits avelut? I mean, why should it be that way?
Wasn't Tisha B'Av also the same?
So Tisha B'Av is a remembrance. You're right. That's also another example of a remembrance of the Churban Beit HaMikdash. It's a good question. But where do we why should we mourn? I mean, it's a tremendous tragedy. 12 months, not more. Furthermore, we stop at Lag BaOmer, but there's a Gemara that says that until Shavuot they died. Okay, the others say not that way, but we stop at Lag BaOmer. What are we mourning? So there was a great Chacham, his name was Rabbi Cheskel Abramsky, and he said like this. There was a story, I'm sure you know this story, that when Moshe Rabbeinu went up to Shamayim to receive the Torah, so Hashem showed him like a video. They had, I don't know what channel or whatever, but he showed him the video on what was going to be in later generations. And he showed him Rabbi Akiva. And Rabbi Akiva was teaching his students Doresh Kitre Otiyot. He used to teach them the secret of the crowns of every single one of the letters. That means that he would be able to tell them a secret in every single crown. It's amazing. Ask Rabbi Abramsky, where are these secrets now? How come we don't have them? So Rabbi Abramsky answered, they all went with the 24,000 students. And that's what we're mourning. We're mourning the chokhmah that we lost. The book Hazon Namoed points this out. We are mourning the great potential of Torah during that time. That's what he says. What we're mourning. So far, so good.
When did this happen?
So this happened at the time of Rabbi Akiva, which is I would say 100 BCE. Before. Coming 100 BC. 50 BC. Around that time. Around the time right after the Khurban. Around the whole Khurban time. The destruction of the Second Temple.
Did it happen only 1 year, or
so many opinions say it happened over many years, but during this period.
Yeah.
During this period. And if you think about it, it's wondrous. This point really requires a lot of thinking. First of all, what's the end of the story? That Hashem showed to Moshe Rabbeinu, Rabbi Akiva's body being tortured to death by the Romans, combed with metal combs. His flesh was being combed. So Rabbi Akiva screams, Zu Torah. I'm sorry, Moshe Rabbeinu screams, Zu Torah v'zu schara. This is Torah and this is the reward. Hashem said, "Shtok, don't say anything. This is what I want. This is my ratzon." That was a mystery. Okay, but getting back to our point, I understand we lost their Torah, but what are the 5 words that are told to us why these chachamim perished? So there's 5 words. Shelo nahagu kavod ze lazeh. They didn't treat themselves with honor. What that means? Each other with honor. What that means? I have no idea. These were greater people than anybody else in this room, by far. No question about it. And I'm sure in ethics also, for us, we would have perceived as great honor, but for their level, Chachamim are telling us something was missing. For their level, something was missing. So what if something was missing? Why should we lose out on the Torah because of that? It's not fair. Why did we lose out on the Torah? Fine. They deserve to die. So why should I lose my Torah and mourn that?
That's the fundamentals of Torah. We're looking for kavod, right?
Oh, okay, very good. So this is what I want to read to you. A portion that, the founder of the Musar movement, his name was Rabbi Yisrael Salant, Rabbi Yisrael from Salant. Rabbi Yisrael from Salant was a trailblazing founder of the Musar movement in the 1800s. He founded ethics, that people should concentrate and work more on ethics. And he had a student called Rav Simcha from Kelm. Simcha Zissel from Kelm. And Rav Simcha Zissel from Kelm says the following. It's really an amazing thing. And he says like this. Let me get the place, I want to read it out. So like this. I want to reveal to you what by me is a secret for more than 20 years. Could be more than 30 years. When I was in Bazagar, the Zagar, wherever that is, and that's where my teacher was there. And I heard things that he told me, and nobody else heard. And I was so shocked. I never heard something like this before. And once I saw how shocked I was, I didn't tell it to anybody else, because I didn't think anybody else is going to understand. And whoever understands it, fine. Whoever doesn't understand it is never going to understand. He told me the following. I'm going to skip some of what he said. He says, once the Torah was given here, according to the understanding of the Chachamim of Torah, there is a rule that a Dayan judges only according to what he sees. But that means he has to be a Dayan. What does a Dayan mean? Somebody who is pure and complete, without any biases. Then this Dayan has pure eyes. But a Dayan who is not pure, who's transmitting Torah, he can't come to truth. And not only that, he says, and this is where he says something shocking. He says that a person who is not complete in his midot, even though he knows the knowledge, and even though you're going to ask him a question, it could be in Shamayim, that's the right answer. That's not called Torah. It's not called Torah. It's something else. It's not Torah. It's not that it's a wisdom, and part of the wisdom is that you have to be also very ethical, and you have to have a certain part of ethics. That's not even what I'm talking about. I mean, in our city, for sure, we can't claim that, because the people that are the heads of our city, for sure, there's things lacking in ethics. I'm not going to get into that, right? But I'm talking about on a Torah level. I'm saying, even if you go to the nations, okay, let's say somebody has ethics. Good. Doesn't have ethics. Okay, but could be, I'm not going to honor him at banquets and dinners, etc. If he's, if he says bad comments or whatever else. But at the end of the day, whatever let's say he invented a certain invention, a certain theory, we'll use it still. It's still called wisdom. By Torah, it doesn't work that way. If he doesn't have, it's very interesting. If he doesn't have the proper ethics, it's not called Torah. It's not called Torah, and it's not worthy to be given to us.
And also, the ethics have to match. They say there's one on the outside, like how he is in the outside, but you have to go to his home
to see how he is with his wife.
Exactly. At home.
Exactly, and see how he is with his wife. Obviously, that's Adam Nikar bekoso, bekaso, ubekiso. A person is recognized with his cup if he knows how to hold his drinks. Bekiso, with the way he spends his money, if he's not stingy, or if he gives money to tzedakah. Ubekaso, and with his anger at home. He gets angry. That's how you can tell who a person really is. That's what the Chachamim tell us. So true. And especially in this regard, that we lost the Torah the students of Rabbi Kiva. Why? Because there was something, according to their level, I don't understand, but according to their level, something was lacking. Something was lacking. We lost the Torah because that's not called Torah. It's not that, okay, we got punished on their Torah because of this. It was a result. It's not a result. The actual essence is missing. You understand? You understand what's being said over here?
The kli is not ready to.
It's not the kli. It's knowledge of the tagin, etc. It doesn't matter.
But then, do we ever really have a situation where Torah is being taught in a pure way? Like I heard this sort of line of thinking, right?
The what?
No, the line of thinking of that if the teacher is not pure,
right? So in Tanakh it says
they're not
this.
allowed to be a teacher.
It says, "Ki malach tzevakot hu." If your Rav is similar to an angel, then learn Torah from him. If he's not similar to an angel, don't learn Torah from him. I once had a question, and I'll tell you like this. I was sitting by somebody and learning by him, and in the middle, somebody called for a question, and they got the wrong number, so they thought they were calling a pizza store. So they said, "Oh, okay, I want to order this and this." So this Rav who answered, he made a little bit of a joke. He was like, "Oh, okay, pizza. You want pizza? Okay, what? How much? Okay." He took it down. Goodbye. They were laughing, and I was like, "That's not a proper way to act." I told the guy it's a mistake or something. I was very bothered. And that night, I was learning with my Rosh Yeshiva, and my mentor. I told him, listen, you shouldn't learn by him then. You shouldn't go listen to Torah from him. You should stop. I had the privilege of living 5 years across the street from Reb Shlomo Volbe. His books. Shlomo Volbe was recognized as the spiritual leader of the Musar movement, of Rabbi Yisrael Salanter's movement in our generation, and he taught thousands of students. The ethics that I saw by him was like unbelievable. He was a giant, people flocking by his door and everything, but his simplicity, his modesty, his midot, his self-control. I would wait for him like this. Well, the schedule would be Motzei Shabbat. I would go to his house. I would listen to Havdalah. And then we would go downstairs. I would open up the water because he used to shut the main valve of water. I never understood why on Shabbat. And I would open it back. And then we'd stay downstairs waiting for the driver to pick us up. And I would go in the car and we'd go to a different neighborhood, and that's where he would deliver his discourse to 1,000 students. So I was there. And he would always hold his sefer. But like me, like this, whenever I'm looking if there's a minyan outside, I'm like so nervous. I go outside, I come, I look. I can't stay in one place. I have no self-control. It's not called self-control. What is it going to help that I go outside to another person? Does that make sense? This is like a guy, it's like I tell people, if you scream enough at the red light, it'll turn green. If you knock on the elevator hard enough, the doors will open. But he came from a school called Kelim, which I mentioned, like there was that school of thought that you don't move your neck if it's not necessary. It was like complete self-control of the mind over body, and like he would always be standing, and you would never see him looking like that. If he would have to look, he would first look at his clock, and then go down, and then very calculated pick up his head and make sure that he's not there before he had to take another action or something. It's happened a couple of times. I saw just total discipline and self-control. And he once said in a sikha, he said a very, very amazing thing. He said, what's the difference between the nations of the world and us? How do we know that our Torah is Torah Emet? You look at our giants of our generation. Look at every single one giant that we ever had, from the Baba Sali to the Hafez Chaim to the Rambam to the Hatam Sofer. Giants go to the generation. There was no such thing as a giant by us that wasn't a giant in ethics as well. And if he wasn't, off the map. He said to him that was the biggest proof of Torah. That's the connection. Why it happened during Sfirat Omer? Because Sfirat Omer is a time of working on our midot, like we see from the Torah itself, from Rav Chaim Tal in the Torah itself. Each week is against another midah. That's why we pick up, and that's why during that time there was a midot deficiency. That's not the right time to be midot deficiency. This is the time to work on our midot in order to accept the Torah properly. That's the biggest preparation for the Torah, midot. I want to mention something as well.
So just to clarify, how would you rectify midah, for example, or machut or hod? How would you rectify that kind of?
It's all up to you, Lal. Some midot are very pashut. We just finished the midah of Tiferet. Yeah, last night we counted the last night of Tiferet, which was Malchut Shebet Tiferet. Tiferet is balance, knowing how to when you're getting your child. It has to be with compassion, in other words, with chesed, at the same time with holding back a little bit. But when you're going to work on only chesed, what are you going to work on? Only giving and giving to the poor, etc. You're going to work on that midah. The next week of Gvura, you're going to work on holding back when you want to have that you want to wake up late and you don't want to go. wake up early, you work on Gvura. Tonight is a different avodah. So, the ever since the founding of the state of Medinat Israel, more than 23,000 soldiers and different victims have died. Al Kiddush Hashem. I want to read you a story. Okay? I want to read you a story. Rav Gustman, I don't know if you heard of Rav Gustman before. Rav Gustman was a very, very big mind that at the age of 19 years old, I think it's 19, it could be it was a little older than that, but not too much older, he was a Dayan on the Bedin in Vilna. Then the war broke out. The Nazis came in. He lost his wife and children. Came to Eretz Yisrael with nothing, and he opened up a yeshiva in Rechavia, that's in Jerusalem, called Netzach Yisrael. Rav Gustman's yeshiva in Rechavia was somewhat off the beaten track, and he learned with a small group of dedicated students. On Thursdays, when he would say his shiur klali, his general shiur, the Bet Midrash would fill, welcoming prominent rabbanim. Remember, he was a genius, he was a prodigy. Magidi Shurim, Dayanim would come, a member of the Israeli Supreme Court, and many professors and academics, anxious to hear the Torah of a survivor of the world that had been destroyed. One of the regular participants in this year was a faculty member from Hebrew University, Professor Robert Aumann, who would be awarded the Nobel Prize of Economics in 2005. Right, Professor Aumann. I know his son-in-law was my dentist. Professor Aumann is a very special Jew. So in June 1982, war broke out, and Israel attacked Lebanon, seeking to destroy the PLO infrastructure that had its base there. Among the soldiers called for reserve duty was Shlomo Aumann, a graduate of Yeshivat Shalavim, the yeshiva, and a student at Hebrew U. Shlomo was killed in battle on the 19th of Sivan, 5742, leaving a wife and 2 children, one born after he died. Rav Gustman brought his entire yeshiva to the Levaya. At the cemetery, he was clearly agitated, surveying the rows of graves of the soldiers who had died in defense of the land. On the way back from the funeral, he told one of his talmidim, they are kiddushim. A second student questioned, even the ones who are not observant? Rav Gustman replied, every single one of them. Turning to the driver, Rav Gustman asked to be taken to Professor Aumann's home. He sat down next to Professor Aumann and said, Rabbi, I very much appreciate your participating in the Levaya. Rabbi, give me 40 seconds, yeah? But you need not to come now. Rav Gustman replied, I am sure that you do not know this, but I had a son, Meir, who was killed during the war. He was a beautiful child, and he was taken from my arms and executed. I managed to escape and took his shoes and bartered them for food for the rest of my family. My Meir is a kadosh. He and all of the other 6 million who perished al Kiddush Hashem. Let me tell you what's going on in heaven this moment, Rav Gustman continued. My Meir is welcoming your Shlomo to the Minyan in Gan Eden and saying to him, I died because I am a Jew, but I wasn't able to save anyone else. But you, Shlomo, you defended our people and our land. You, Shlomo, will be our Shaliach Tzibur. I never had the chance to sit Shiva for my Meir, Rav Gustman concluded. Let me sit here for you just a bit longer. Professor Aumann replied, I did not think I could be comforted, but Rebbe, you have comforted me.